Income Store live video stream at 560theanswer.com.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Chicago all the way with EPA. She's got dibs, okay?
On AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The primary for Mayor of Chicago, February 26th, just a couple weeks away. And so we've got to get our parody songs in, particularly for candidates that, may not make the runoff, despite what people think. And Bill Daley, I think, is one of them.
Really?
I
He might not make?
I think people think he's the front runner. I don't think that. We got.
Well, I hope not.
We got some lyrics.
Oh, no.
From a loyal listener out of Oak Park. I don't know if I am authorized to use his name, so I won't. I'll just say loyal listener out of Oak Park. They're very good.
And he wrote a parody song about Bill Daley?
Yeah, it's you'll recognize it off of the Won't You Go Home, Bill Bailey.
Oh.
And here's our very own Justin.
Oh, boy.
Voicing those lyrics. I think our friend from Oak Park is going to be disappointed.
Won't you go home, Bill Daley? Won't you go home? You've been around for so long.
Yeah. Put our backup.
You did this 6 years ago, Bill, when you ran. But it didn't last as long as this song.
Ooh. Ouch.
And
a little pitchy.
Now to no one's surprise, you want to be the mayor.
lost his head.
Bill Daley, won't you please go home?
Boy, there are cats congregating outside that studio.
Bill Daley, won't you go home? You've been around for so long.
Yeah.
We're really going to have to invest in voice lessons for our friend Justin.
Well, to be fair, that is, from a couple of eras removed from Justin's very short time on this mortal coil. Bill Daley, by the way, did you see this in the Tribune over the weekend? It turns out that, he's not the only, or that Richie is not the only one who struggles with tests. Richard J. Daley flunked the bar.
We know.
Yeah. Right. For all I know, he continued to flunk it until, I don't know, Michael took it for him or something. Well, Bill Daley, man of letters, captain of industry, he also had a problem with state insurance test.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he a state exam to sell insurance in Illinois. He failed it, because he's a moron. And then so to avoid any further embarrassment, it appears that somebody took it for him.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, that's the Tribune report.
Okay. Well, I think Bill Daley is horrible because he's taking Republican voters for granted. I mean, we've reached out to him, and his campaign staffer sent back an email to our producer saying, we don't do morning radio. If you want to come to our office between 10 and 12, we'll be happy to field questions. Are you kidding me? I mean,
Please.
If you're mayor, if there's an accident or something big, you're going to have to get up early
Get
in the morning.
a hold of
okay?
yourself. Bill Daley gets more done between 10 a.m. and noon than most people get done all day.
Oh, sure.
He's a dynamo.
What does he do?
Just don't worry about it. The question is, would Paul Vallas have expelled Bill Daley from the selling insurance in Illinois for cheating on his test? Paul Vallas, an educator. Why don't we ask him? We're joined now by Paul Vallas, former CEO of CPS and candidate for Chicago mayor. Paul, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, and I didn't take the test for him. I just want to state that for the record.
Certainly not the first time, because we would
No, not
take
the first.
Yeah.
We got to find the person who took the test for him. Huh?
Oh, what
I
about?
want to tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love the song. I think there should be a verse on hanging chats, NAFTA, which took Trump about a year to fix, by the way, and of course, which Daley was responsible for. Probably cost 150,000 jobs in the South Side, and the parking meters. There should be a chapter on each of those.
Well, the parking meters piece, it was a great deal when he made it, and now, as I understand it from his rap on the campaign trail, not such a good deal. So somehow
right.
it changed at some point. I don't know how or why.
And it changed in a matter of months, if you remember. So it's not like he praised it. He actually defended the deal early on, and then when he became a candidate, he didn't have anything to do with it, no influence whatsoever, and it was just a bad deal, and he wouldn't have done it.
And his first line of business, he suggested changing the Dan Ryan to the Barack Obama. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, first of all, we all remember how they drew the Dan Ryan. The Dan Ryan was specifically drawn to keep the city segregated. So, so I thought it was a little ironic. And he floated that proposal the day I hit him, or the day after I hit him on his failure to file his tax returns, which he still has not released.
Oh, okay.
And I think he released he released a statement that he had paid, or he had earned X amount of money in taxes for a single year and no detail. So what is he hiding?
And so, how do you? I mean, I don't want you to get in the business of handicapping the race right now, but in terms of like being a political pundit, I want you to analyze the race in terms of being a mayor, and how do you get into this runoff on February 26th? What does the Paul Vallas coalition look like?
Well, first of all, you can't believe the polls, particularly any poll that's put up by the Sun-Times. You all remember that infamous poll they put out having me buried in third place when I ran against Rod Blagojevich.
I don't believe anything put out by the Sun-Times, period. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, period. Yeah, and well, the poll at least. But I think I'm in the mix. My polls, the polls that I've seen from other candidates who have shared them with me, show that there's like a 6%, there's like a 6-point difference between four candidates, and I'm one of them. And I think I'm going to win based on the issues. I think right now the undecideds are leading, and I believe that as it gets closer to the election, people are really going to do their homework, and they're going to ask themselves who can run the city from day one, who can run the city in ways that benefits the entire city, and who has really demonstrated time and again their independence from the pay-to-play movement. And I think, so I've worked all constituencies. I've been in every community, and I'm just out there trying to be as detailed as possible about offering my solutions while being pretty aggressive about attending every forum. I've attended every forum save the one or two that I was not invited to, and I think I've seen Daley at 4 or 5 of them. And Parkwickle has ducked forums, Mendoza has ducked forums, Chico has ducked forums. So I'm just hoping in this crowded race, 15-20% will get me into the runoff, and I'm confident I'm going to be there.
Well, to be fair, a lot of those forums are not scheduled between 10 a.m. and noon, and so it's difficult for Bill to make them because those are his work hours.
And you did a great job filling in at the last minute last week on Fox 32. When did you get the phone call?
I think I got the phone call about 4 o'clock. And, of course, I had had a long night. I had been campaigning the night before, and, every night when I come home, because I've been campaigning since April, I have to watch a movie no matter what. At 10 o'clock, I have to watch it. I get home at 12 o'clock, I have to watch a movie. So I figured I had a light night I was going to have a light night the following day. I didn't have any evening events. So when I got the call, I said, "Oh, great! I'll really screw up this." But
no, you did.
Him not showing up, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to give I always wanted to replace the daily line. I was thinking about that right after they called me.
That's good.
He set that up nicely for you. Let me get your reaction to some of the proposals that were promulgated by business leaders, public sector union bosses. I really can't distinguish between the two groups in Chicago. So the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago proposed a 1 percentage point increase in the state income tax and the corporate tax, talking about taxing retirement income and some retail services that are not currently taxed. And then the public sector union bosses introduced the idea of a 3.5% city income tax for household incomes over $100,000, a LaSalle Street tax, and all kinds of other fun stuff. Any of those tax proposals catch your fancy?
No, none of them. Well, look, I think the state's going to raise the income tax. Pritzker has said that. I've said that there's ways to make the income tax progressive through tax credits, and you can make it progressive for business, for example, by providing a tax break for the amount of workman's comp paid. And you'll understand this, Dan and Amy, almost applying it the way they do the earned income tax credit, so you can level the playing field when it comes to workman's compensation costs for businesses. But, the 3.5% city income tax, oh, please, give me a break, or the LaSalle Street tax. Those taxes will just absolutely kill the city. I believe that we can meet our pension obligations, structurally balance the budget, and cap property taxes with the resources that we have in hand, particularly if we protect our share of revenues coming from the state. And I've articulated that in in great detail, and I remain confident in doing that. And let me point out that in the financial plan that I've laid out and that is posted and online, and I presented at the City Club, I don't rely on casino revenues or cannabis revenues. I mean, if those things are enacted, I think the casino monies should be used for infrastructure repair, getting the lead pipes replaced. And I think if cannabis is enacted, it should be used for health and wellness, mental health. It should be used for opioid and drug treatment. And I think not to fund the pension systems, because we all remember what happened when they passed the lottery to fund education. That was supposed to solve all of our problems.
And speaking of the,
so I want to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah. Speaking of the opioid problem, Sneed talked to you yesterday, a beautiful op-ed about your son Mark, who was 24 years old when he died almost a year ago. And what have you learned since the passing of your son, and what needs to be done for the opioid crisis?
Well, first of all, I think I articulated what we had learned about him, because you really never discover your child until you go through their belongings. You find their Bible, you find their little notes. He didn't keep a diary, but he always took notes about everything, and so you really don't realize that until you go through all his belongings and you discover that you really never knew your kid. And but what I've learned over this experience is, I thought I understood the pain and suffering that families experience because of alcohol, because of drug and opioid addiction, and in part because I've run so many school districts where obviously these have been issues that I've had to face in the community, but you really never feel the pain until it impacts you personally. And so I'm hell bent on using every dime of whatever's raised through cannabis, because they're going to legalize cannabis, on really providing the type of drug treatment programs and mental health and wellness programs that the community needs. If they're going to legalize marijuana, let's use it. Let's use it to really help provide the critical social services that the community needs. Look, I mean, my son was able to go through rehab probably half a dozen times, and there are families out there that really struggle, and they don't have access to those resources. But it's, I'm more convinced than ever that we've got to be as aggressive as we can, because this is like, and you all know it, this is like it's like the Great Plague of the Middle Ages. It impacts everyone indiscriminately. We know at least 3 families who have lost a loved one. And when my son was going through his various rehab phases, and he was a wonderful child, there were at least 10 people that he knew who ultimately died, and during that period. And he used to talk about that all the time. And of course, I used to tell him that maybe this experience was preparing him to be a drug counselor, because over at Haymarket, he really did. He was a real asset to them in working with the new the new residents who were coming in to stay with him, and they had told him that he could stay indefinitely because he was so good at counseling the newcomers. So it's a real struggle. It's a real struggle, and it's caused pain and suffering in all communities and every family.
Yeah, Haymarket's a great group, and thank you for talking about your son, because I think it's helpful for a lot of other families to hear it, even though I know it's obviously painful. He is Paul Vallas. He's the former CEO of CPS, candidate for mayor on February 26. More info about his candidacy and campaign, vallasforallchicago.com. Paul, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560.